Is back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes! The center back, Jacob Glesnes, is going for it. Oh my God! What a goal! And that will do it! One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And unfortunately, 2 weeks of no Union soccer. Just when things are getting going for the Union. Winners of the last 3 games, undefeated in their last 5 league games played. That's good enough to sit them in second place in the MLS East. Won 14 points with New England Revolution with 17 points in first place. But yeah, I mean, what a game against Portland Timbers. What are we going to do the next 2 weeks with no Union soccer? Like I said, with things just they were ramping up there for a second there for the Union, and now it all comes to a halt. And yeah, maybe I won't even say maybe, it's a well-deserved rest for just what the players on this team's been putting on the last several weeks. Where, look, let's face it, Jim really hasn't been rotating players. He really hasn't been making substitutions until 1 minute before the game's over. So yeah, these guys deserve a well-deserved rest, a well-deserved break. And let's hope when the Union take on Atlanta, down in Atlanta, June 20th, I believe. I should know that. Let's just hope that the Union continue to just play that the way they were playing before this international break. But we'll go over some MLS news. We'll go over, talk about this Portland versus Philadelphia Union game. No blunder of the week this week because, look, actually, that's a lie. I guess I could give blunder of the week to Inter Miami. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and get that out of the way right now, Inter Miami, and we'll talk about that a little bit, all the sanctions that MLS is giving them. So, yeah, Miami, you guys will get blunder of the week just for a mess of a franchise you guys have down there in Florida. But yeah, like I said, we'll go over news, we'll go over Portland Timbers, Philadelphia Union game, and then talk about something interesting I found on the Philadelphia Union subreddit page about just Union soccer. So we'll talk about all that stuff, see how long we go. Like you guys know, I never like to limit myself, say how long we're going to record, because every time I say, oh yeah, this will be 30 minutes, it always goes 45 minutes. So we'll go as long as I go. So with further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the news. Yeah, so starting off, and I'm sure you guys have seen this by now, but NYCFC have signed Brazilian forward Talles Magno for a fee of $8 million, which could rise to $12 million. Now, some of you guys that jumped on last week when I went on Twitter Spaces talking about that DC United game, you guys probably heard me talk about Talles, but I recorded that episode and I never published it. I was like, I'm not sure this is some of my best work, so I was like, let me not even publish this. So I did talk about Talles a little bit. And like I said, you guys should have seen this by now that he is a New York City player, but he's a very, very promising Brazilian player. If you guys aren't familiar with him, he's 18 years old. And how in the world did New York City sign a player of Talles' caliber? Now, there was rumors before New York City signed him that Liverpool were looking at him, Man City were looking at him, Real Madrid, I believe. A whole bunch of clubs in Europe were looking at this guy. And everybody expected, when it's the next big thing, best new superstar down in Brazil, everybody expects him to go to Europe right away. And we've seen Real Madrid the last couple of years. It seems like once they missed out on Neymar, they're like, okay, whenever there's a big talent in Brazil, we're going to go ahead and sign them so Barcelona don't beat us to him. And so everybody expected Talles to go ahead and sign a deal with somebody in Europe, but it never happened because of COVID. Teams weren't sure how much money they would have to spend. And so New York City came up and said, hey, look, you guys are desperate for money. You guys could potentially wait for a team to give you guys some money in the summertime, or do you guys want this money right now? And they said, yeah, we'll take the money right now. And so COVID for as bad as it's been, kind of worked in New York City's favor. And we've seen less signings in Europe because of COVID. Who knows what the summer transfer window is going to look like? As we all know, most teams in Europe didn't have fans in the stadium until the tail end of their season. So again, you're not making any money on season tickets, on concessions, just any of that stuff. So how much money a European team is going to have to spend, who knows? But New York City, I mean, looks like they're getting a really, really good player. Like I said, it could rise to $12 million. But here's the one thing that I think maybe a lot of people are overlooking. We've seen it with the Red Bulls, where a player will get signed to Salzburg, and then after a couple years, then they go ahead and get signed to RB Leipzig. They get sold to RB Leipzig. We've seen Caden Clark. We know he's eventually going to leave the Red Bulls to go ahead to RB Leipzig. So my whole thinking is, yeah, well, New York City is a part of City Footballing Group. Why not, after a couple years, if Talles produces well for NYCFC, why wouldn't they sell him to Man City? Especially when Man City just lost Sergio Aguero. Gabriel Jesus doesn't seem like he's a forward. It seems like Man City need a striker, and I know there's rumors out there that they could go ahead and sign Harry Kane, and look, they're going to spend money. And if Talles continues to go in the way that people are projecting him to go, yeah, there's no reason at all why I can't see him wind up with Manchester City. And I feel like we'll probably see more of that just in the world, that we see it with FC Dallas, where, yeah, they're not a part of Bayern Munich, but they do have a connection. We've seen them sell a couple of their players to Bayern Munich, and I think that they're linked with another player, Justin Che. I think that's how you spell it. Defender. He's linked with a move to Bayern Munich, and we know Chris Richards was sold to Bayern Munich, and he played a part of the first team last season. So, yeah, Talles, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he does wind up at Manchester City one way or another. But New York City, they needed another forward. We know it was only Eber who's recovering from injury. We know that Tati Castellanos, they finally got him to link a new deal. So they only have two strikers, and only one of them are fit right now. So they go ahead and sign another forward in Talles Magno, and they have another promising Brazilian forward in Thiago, who's only 20 years old. So their front three could be all Brazilians, and then you add Castellanos. Yeah, New York City, for as much stick that they got during the offseason for the little moves that they made, I think New York City, if those three strikers and then Castellanos, if they can all link up really well, I think this could be a scary offensive team. Because as things stand right now, going into the international break, NYCFC are in fourth place with 7 games played, won 11 points. So, look, they get another win. They're tied with Union. They scored 13 goals. That's, if I'm not mistaken, the most right now in the East. And yeah, that is, looking at it right now, 13 goals. And the next closest to that is New England. And New York City, that's the third most in all of MLS. So for a team that's short on strikers, now they add 2 Brazilian strikers. Yeah, this New York City team could definitely go on a roll offensively, but hopefully not against the Union when we see them again. That's what hurts about us losing to New York City. We know that they're going to be good when we see them 2 more times. And I guess what hurts more than the New York City loss at home is the Inter Miami loss. There's no way that should have happened, but it did happen. But yeah, we won't spend all time talking about that because we talked about that in a podcast before. But moving on, former Philadelphia Union Academy player Tomás Romero, who is the current backup goalkeeper for LAFC, he declined a call-up for El Salvador to maintain the possibility of playing for the United States. Now, that's not to say that Tomás can't go back and say, hey, look, if you call me up again, who's to say that he declines it? I think for him to say, yeah, I want to play for the USA, yeah, there's a log jam, I'd say, of goalkeeper. Obviously, Zach Steffen. I think Matt Turner is right there. Bill Hamed, could he potentially get more call-ups? Who knows? But we know that and Zach Steffen and Matt Turner as the 1 and 2. And there's a whole bunch of younger goalkeepers, too, that look like they could potentially get some time with the USA. So for him to say, yeah, I'm holding out for the hopes of getting called up by the United States, it's a difficult choice. But if that's where his heart wants to be, then you can't blame the guy for saying, yeah, I'd rather wait for the USA to call me up. But look, this just goes to show just how well the Union are at producing players. We know that we had a log jam here in Philadelphia at goalkeeper. That's why the Union traded Romero's rights to LAFC, because he wasn't going to get the number 1 spot from Andre Blake. Look, Matt Freese can't even get the number 1 spot from Andre Blake, and we know how well Matt Freese is as a goalkeeper. So, yeah, it was good for the Union to get some money for him. But, man, just say that, yeah, I want to play for the USA, and you look at all the goalkeepers that he's behind. Yeah, it's pretty tough. And we saw all over the weekend, Brendan Aronson, Mark McKenzie represent the U.S. national team against Switzerland. They got caught up for the Nations League, and they definitely won't be the last Philadelphia Union players that we see get caught up to the national team. And look, there's talks that Leon Flach could get caught up for the USA for the Gold Cup. We'll see if that does happen. I wouldn't be surprised if it does, just because of how well Leon is playing, but more on Leon a little bit later. Moving on, staying with Philadelphia Union, Andre Blake, Cory Burke, and Alvas Powell. I know Alvas isn't a Philadelphia Union player yet. All 3 of those guys have pulled out of Jamaica's 3-game tour in Japan during the international break. Now, I know a little while ago there was reports coming out of Jamaica that the Jamaican national team was not getting paid money. And so a lot of the players were pretty upset that the federation weren't paying them their money, and so they started declining call-ups. And is that the case here for Andre Blake, Cory Burke, and Alvas Powell? Potentially. I know that when Jamaica released a statement about players, they didn't specifically say the players' names, but when they announced that some players weren't going on tour, they said that it was to deal with injuries. Well, we know Cory Burke and Andre Blake aren't injured. Alvas Powell's been training with the Union, not injured. So it's got to be money, right? And look, I'm happy that all 3 of those guys, the Union haven't, like I said, officially signed Alvas Powell. But I'm sure with him continuing to train with the Union, it's probably close. But Cory Burke and Andre Blake, look, like I said, just this whole team, this whole Philadelphia Union team, they deserve some rest, especially Andre Blake. Dude's been playing out of his mind here in 2021. So, look, if it means Andre Blake staying back in Philadelphia for a little bit, not getting hurt with Jamaica like we've seen in the past, I'm all for it. And Mbaizo, I think, too, I read, had some visa issues, so he can't go with Cameroon on international duty. Look, I love when Philadelphia Union players get caught up to the national team. I'm hoping Leon Flach gets caught up to the USA national team. You guys have seen me on Twitter. You guys have heard me on the podcast talk about how I wish Kacper would have got the call up to the Poland's national team. But look, if these guys get to stay back and not called up to the national team, that means that there's less of a chance of them getting hurt. And that means that their bodies can recover for the next half of MLS games to play. So I'm not complaining, even though I would like to see these guys represent their national teams, because that means when we go to sell them, when you're playing international football, that means more eyes are on you. So that's potential more money that the Philadelphia Union could get. But that's neither here or there. Let's move on to the next bit of news. Like I said, Inter Miami, you guys are getting blunder of the week. Yeah, I won't play the oof sound. So Inter Miami, in case you guys missed it, I'm sure everybody's seen this by now, but they were punished on Friday night by MLS. They finally came out with the sanctions for them for the whole Blasi Matuidi deal with them having too many DPs on the roster. And yeah, you guys heard Kobe Price talk about that whole mess when he was on the podcast a couple weeks ago. So if you guys haven't, you guys can go ahead and listen to that whole mess. He's a reporter down in Florida covering Inter Miami. So a great episode with Kobe, and I can't wait to have Kobe on the podcast again when we talk about Inter Miami and the Philadelphia Union. And I'm sure we're here, Kobe's thoughts on just all these sanctions, which include the club being fined $2 million, club owner Jorge Mas was fined $250,000. Inter Miami's TAM for 2022 and 2023 were reduced by $2,271,000. That is roughly 25% of their budget for those 2 years. Significant amount of money. Paul McDonough is suspended from any MLS-related activity through the 2022 season, and we know that he left into Miami, went back to Atlanta. Atlanta cut ties with McDonough, said, yeah, nope, we don't want any part of this anymore with you. And like I said, he's banned from all MLS-related activity through the 2022 season. Would be really surprised if anybody in MLS gives him another chance just because of this mess that he created down in Inter Miami. Andre Reyes, who was a center back last year for Inter Miami, who's now with the New York Red Bulls, he was considered a DP player last year, meaning, which we didn't even know at the time, that Miami had 5 DP players on the roster in 2020. It was also reported that Miami underreported salary budgets for players named Leandro Gonzalez Perez, Nicholas Figal, and Julian Carenza. And you know who all that falls onto is Paul McDonough. So Paul McDonough not only does some sketchy stuff with Matuidi to get him on a TAM deal, he hides Andre Reyes, and he goes and hides the contracts of how much these 3 other players were getting paid. And rightfully so that he's banned from all MLS activities just related throughout 2022. I'm a little bit surprised that it wasn't a little bit longer, because how on earth you hide how much money these players are making? I don't even know how he hid this and got away with it. So, I mean, you mean to tell me that if Matuidi would have been a DP player, if he would have been listed as a DP player, that MLS wouldn't have found out about Andre Reyes, about Gonzalo Perez, Figal, and Carenza? It's kind of scary to think about, right? If it wasn't for Matuidi, what else would Inter Miami be getting away with? So it's kind of a blessing in disguise, right? That they got caught with the whole, Matuidi's not a DP signing. And they go and hide the contracts of these 4 other players. So, yeah, it is scary to think about that. Paul McDonough was able to hide so much stuff in his time in Miami. And they did get slapped hard. And then MLS also found that the Inter Miami owners, none of them were found of any wrongdoing. So, basically, everything was thrown onto Paul McDonough for making a mess down into Miami. And the crazy thing is, too, if you guys remember back when it was between Paul McDonough or Chris Henderson, who is now the sporting director and down into Miami, it was between these 2 guys, and Miami went with Paul McDonough, and the dude completely botched Miami's first season in MLS last season with just all this sketchy financing, accounting mess that he had going on down there. And then Miami's like, yeah, let's go ahead and cut ties with McDonough and go with the guy we should have went with in the first place, which is Chris Henderson. Yeah, what a mess down in Miami, right? And it's always funny watching these European papers say, oh, David Luiz, Willian, Luis Suarez are linked with moves to Miami. Well, it's kind of hard when they have three DPs. And look, Paul McDonough's not there to hide the contracts for Willian and David Luiz anymore. So, yeah, I don't think these European teams really know how the mechanism in MLS works. They're like, okay, let's just link any players, any retiring players that we can to MLS, because in their minds, MLS is a retiring league, and they obviously don't do their research well enough to find out that, yeah, look, there's a designated player rule where players can only make a certain amount of money. But look, that's again neither here or there, because again we could talk for a while about European reporters not understanding MLS all that well, right? But let's go ahead to point number 4. The second to last point And that is LA Galaxy. They signed midfielder, and that is Rayan Raveloson. And look, I don't expect anybody to know who Rayan is because he was signed from League Two, signed in France, Troyes. And the only reason I bring this up is because I think we're going to see, look, if I'm not mistaken, LA Galaxy have signed a player. This is their second player from League Two in France. I believe Minnesota also signed a couple of players from League Two in France. We know the Philadelphia Union signed Jamir Montero from League Two in France. Now, I'm not saying that these teams are looking at Jamir Montero, how well he's playing, and saying, look, let's copy what the Philadelphia Union are doing. But what I do think teams are starting to do because of Ernst Tanner is looking at these leagues that MLS teams in the past typically hadn't looked at. We know that for the longest time, MLS was finding aging superstars, and it doesn't take that much information to scout as Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Ashley Cole, a Wayne Rooney, Steven Gerrard. Yeah, it doesn't take a lot of scouting to find these players. Everybody knows who these players are, but they were near the end of their careers. Now, Zlatan's another story just for how well he played in LA, but then again, how well was that deal? Because never won a trophy, which they were hoping they would. But nonetheless, look, if it wasn't aging superstars and it was going down to South America to sign a whole bunch of young South American players. But now we're seeing more and more teams go to these leagues that have been bypassed by so many MLS teams over the years. And we've seen with the Union with Jamir Montero, Kai Wagner, Kacper Przybylko, Leon Flach, Jose Martinez. I know he was in South America, but Ernst Tanner doesn't have the biggest war chest. We know that. He's not going out here spending millions of dollars. His scouting network is so well to be able to find players that we never heard of. And so Rayan Raveloson, look, he might be something for LA Galaxy. He signed a 3-year deal with a club option for a 4th year. He's 24 years old. He's played for the Madagascar national team. And it's always a good thing, I think, when teams in MLS, just teams in general, sign players that have represented the national team. Now, granted, look, Madagascar might not be the best national team in the world, but still, I mean, you got to think about all the people that are living in these countries that are playing soccer, and they might not be at the highest levels, but to still represent your national team, I mean, people take pride in that. So could this be LA Galaxy's Jamir Montero? Maybe it is, but I think he should be a player that MLS fans, Union fans should pay attention to. And I think as Union fans, we should just continue to watch what MLS teams do, where they're signing players from, that it's not your typical leagues. Because I think as the summer transfer window opens up, as the years go on, I think we're going to see more and more MLS teams just go into stranger and stranger leagues around Europe because it's been working for teams. Now, the last bit of news I want to talk about is Kacper and Jack Elliott. They both earned Team of the Week honors for Week 7 in MLS. Last week, I believe Jacob Glesnes won Week of the honors for his performance against DC United. So, yeah, it's good to see just more Union players get rewarded for how well they're playing. And this is something that us Union fans shouldn't take for granted anymore. It's, look, we know we have a good team. We know that the league's starting to catch on now, that they're starting to buy into what the Philadelphia Union are. They're starting to believe that, look, we're not underdogs anymore. And I know the players continue to say, yeah, we're underdogs, but look, to sit in second place, to see what you guys have done since 2019, you guys aren't underdogs. So, yeah, that's it for the news. Let's go on and talk about the Philadelphia Union versus Portland Timbers. So, as we all know, the Philadelphia Union win that one 3-0. And the crazy thing about this game is that every single goal that the Union scored were off of set pieces. 2 corner kicks, 1 free kick. The free kick. But look, this is something that we've not seen the Philadelphia Union do for years, I feel like. The Union, and this is a great stat that Kevin Kincaid found, The Union came into this game having scored 6 goals in MLS play, 4 from open play, and 2 from set pieces. Then you add their 3 from Sunday night, and they've scored 5 out of their 9 from dead balls this season. That's 55% of their goals that the Union have scored from set pieces. That's unbelievable. And then you go ahead and this is thanks to the Brotherly Game. They tweeted this out. Philadelphia Union goals off of set pieces in 2020. They had 8 in 23 regular season games. In 2021, like Kevin said, there's 5 in 8 games so far. So, I mean, just bravo to the Philadelphia Union, just how well that they've been creating chances off the corners. And I know, they've not scored a ton of goals off corner kicks, but they're creating a lot of chances. They're not wasting the corner kicks. Like you guys can remember in 2019 and 2020 where like the corner kicks were so bad that they would just play it short. And it's like, okay, look, we don't even want a corner kick. We're just going to play it short, and whatever happens, happens. Now we're seeing in-swingers, out-swingers from Jamir Montero and Kai Wagner. A lot of people probably get confused, like, why would you put 2 guys on the corner flag? Well, it's because those guys are reading the game, seeing, should I send in an in-swinger? Should I send in an out-swinger? And that's all thanks to Frank Leist, the new Philadelphia Union coach that they brought in from Germany. And yeah, he's the guy who's responsible for just set pieces for corner kicks, defending and attacking them. And yeah, the Philadelphia Union have been phenomenal just from dead ball situations. And I do want to play Jim Curtin's clip from the post-game press conference after the Union beat Portland 3-0. I just want you guys to hear what Jim Curtin had to say about the Union on set pieces.
Yeah, we talked about it at halftime that in the run of play we still missed finding Jamiro, who was open a lot. We missed a couple times. Sergio had made good runs. We didn't put them on the ball enough in the run of play. I thought it was a little bit better in the second half, but when you can manufacture goals and score off of restarts, we've been spending a lot more time on them offensively and defensively, and the staff's done a really great job with that. So to score 3 off of restarts tonight, sometimes off of secondary situations, second phases, was really important. Again, against the good teams like Portland, who when they get 8 guys behind the ball, they're difficult to break down in the run of play. Set pieces become very critical. So it was a big initiative for us in this offseason to improve in that area, and it's good to obviously hit the back of the net 3 times tonight on restarts. And overall played some pretty good soccer. I thought we still haven't played our best game yet, but I like where the group's at. And again, we'll continue to improve the set pieces and also now improve our transitions and getting more goals in the run of play.
Now, at the end there, Jim Curtin said, we're going to continue to improve on our set pieces. I mean, wow. Can they improve? Yeah, I guess so, but the score 5 of your 9 goals from set pieces, that's really good, where you're scoring more goals from set pieces than you are from open play. So, I mean, if look, they're going to have 2 weeks. 2 weeks to recover, to practice. I know Jim Curtin did say too later on in his press conference that the Union, for whatever players are here that aren't going away for international duty, that they have a scrimmage against New York City FC coming up to prepare for that Atlanta game, because Jim said that both of those teams are very, very similar. So he said, what better team to play than New York City to prepare for Atlanta? But look, if they can find ways to get better at set pieces, I'm all for it. And to Jim's point, he did make a good point. Look, Portland, they were banged up. A lot of starters missed this game. They were on the 3rd, 4th string goalkeeper. Their midfield was a mess. So what other choice did they have but to sit back to put 8 men behind the ball? And we've seen so many times in the past complaining about this as Union fans that teams are coming in here, parking the bus, putting 9 men behind the ball, and we can't break these teams down. That's why we would bring in El Sino to, make something happen. And luckily for the Union, they were great on the night on set pieces. How Kacper Przybylko was unmarked on a free kick where he scored that header, and then when Sergio Santos scored his goal off of the flick one by Kacper, Yeah, I have no clue how. It doesn't matter if you're the second, you're the third string midfielder, defender. You're a professional soccer player. Like, how do you let a 6'4" Polish striker, a dude that's been phenomenal in the air, unmarked? You don't even think about him. You're like, okay, look, you're not going to do anything, because more times than not, we've seen Kacper score headers this season. First game of the season against Saprissa. What does Kacper do? He scores a header. I mean, look, I'm not complaining about it, and I know Jim also said in his press conference that, look, we're going to continue to target Kacper. Kacper has been phenomenal in the air for us, and yeah, it was just mind-blowing to me that Portland left him unmarked, and great finish, by the way, by Sergio Santos on that second goal. I don't know. We've seen Sergio miss a lot of chances this season, miss the ball completely, and yeah, for him to be able to get a left foot on that and kick the ball straight at the goalie over his head, yeah, phenomenal finish by Sergio Santos. And look, I'm sure. Look, I know there's people that are in Oregon that are Portland fans listen to this podcast, and I thank you guys for listening. And at one sense, I do feel bad that you guys didn't have your strongest lineup because look. You've got to win the games that you got to play, right? You can't control injuries and everything, but I wonder how different this game would have been against Portland. I'm sure you guys would have loved to come east with a full team, and yeah, we would have liked to have seen a full Portland team to see, okay, how well can we play against Portland? Now, look, we got all the 3 points, and that's what matters against a Portland team that was depleted by injuries. But I do wonder how different this game could have been. Would we have seen Kacper Przybylko unmarked? Would we have seen Cory Burke unmarked when the Union scored the third goal with Jack Elliott? Who knows? But there is no denying, though, that the Philadelphia Union have got so much better this season off of set pieces. And look, 5-8 games so far in this season, in MLS play, I should say. Look, let's hope that the Union continue to create chances off of corner kicks, free kicks, off of dead ball situations, because there are going to be teams that come into Subaru Park that are going to play at home, let's face it, and park the bus, because the Philadelphia Union, they know that they have a good attack, and once you throw in Daniel Gazdag in the mix, if the Philadelphia Union go out and sign another player like Jim Curtin said they would, he said a player or two, if it is a striker, look, teams are going to sit back, park the bus, and put 8-9 men behind the ball and say, okay, look, try to break us down. And if the Union are going to be able to continue to score off of set pieces, then that changes the whole way that teams are going to have to unpark the bus, have to go at the Union. Because as soon as the Union scored their second goal, and even the third goal, let's be fair, right? They came straight at the Union. Andre Blake makes a really, really good save on Mbise in the 78th, 79th minute, I want to say. Jacob Glesnes got beat by pace, and Andre Blake stands tall, and the ball falls to Valeri, and he hits it over the bar, and Andre Blake was animated. It looked like he was yelling at Mbise, and I think he probably was watching that replay. Mbise probably should have ran to the middle. He was tracking nobody. But maybe there was a guy to his left that he was aware of. But yeah, Andre Blake was so animated on that play when he made that save on Mbise. And look, the game could have been completely different if Portland would have scored in the 4th or 5th minute, I believe it was, when Ali Bedoya gives up a free kick. I'd say 22, 23 yards away from goal. Andre Blake saves comfortably. And look, that was probably the best chance of the night for Portland. We've seen Diego Valeri score a ton of free kicks in his time in Portland, and it doesn't get any better in the position where he was at, and Andre Blake stood up to the test and made a really good save. Speaking of Andre Blake, I mean, look, not only that save and then the NBC save, he made 2 other saves. Just Andre Blake continues to play very, very, very well for the Philadelphia Union, and I do feel bad just... I remember near the end of the season, having Philadelphia Union fans come on the podcast saying, do we need a goalkeeper? I think we need a goalkeeper. Andre Blake seems like he's done. And yeah, in 2020, Andre Blake won goalkeeper of the year. If he keeps up this form, I don't see why he won't win back-to-back goalkeepers of the year. He's just playing out of his mind. And this is the Andre Blake we knew all along in 2016, 2017, and 2019. Was he injured? Was he not? Who knows? We know that he wasn't the Andre Blake that we're used to. And Andre Blake continues to save points time after time for the Philadelphia Union, and no goalkeeper in MLS is better than Andre Blake. And I know LA Galaxy fans want to say that Bond, I believe that's his name, the goalkeeper, and that they got this year from England, he had 12 saves over the weekend. I know they want to say, oh, look, he's better than Andre Blake. I know New England fans want to say Matt Turner is better than Andre Blake, but yeah, I would say Andre Blake, Matt Turner, and then Eloy Room as the three best goalkeepers in MLS, with Matt Turner being right. He's close to Andre Blake, I'm not going to lie, but yeah, there's a big difference between Andre Blake and then everybody else that's not Eloy Room and Matt Turner, in my opinion. And Leon Flach, well, what more can we say about this guy? I mean, look, unlucky to get a goal taken away from him. It said that it hit his hand, but I thought that his arm was in a natural position. But VAR, Robert Sabiga said, no, look, he could have moved his arm. I don't think so. And a guy that's been working so hard ever since he got here in Philadelphia to have so many chances. The very first time that he stepped up onto the pitch, he had a chance. And I thought he had a chance here. I mean, look, the Union could have scored 4 goals from set pieces if they would have gave Leon Flach his goal. Dude just playing out of his mind. 7 out of 10 duels won, 5 out of 6 successful tackles, 1 interception, 4 recoveries. I completed 2 out of 2 long passes, and that's what you want from your number 6. And I know on the night, Leon was playing as the number 8. But you want to see your midfielders, you want to see your center backs complete those long, accurate passes. And Leon's been great here, and you guys know his engine. And look, I'm going to bring up Leon Flach here a little bit later too, and a shout out to Leon Flach too. After the game, the only Union player that I noticed when you're leaving the river end, that was before you get into the Tunnel Club, he was waiting outside if people wanted to take pictures. He was waiting there taking pictures with fans. So shout out to Leon Flach, and he is, I don't even think slowly anymore. He's becoming fan favorite for so many people. I saw somebody wearing a Leon Flach jersey, and I'm sure by the time summer comes, we're going to see a lot of people in Leon Flach jerseys now. We just got to get the Union team store to tell somebody in the customization store to, hey, look, there's a whole bunch of people that want jerseys customized. You guys got to open up. So not sure why that hasn't been opened up yet. I think only one time this season, but look, that's we won't talk about that. I thought that, again, look, you guys have heard me talk about yeah, the Union need to control their heads. Are they undisciplined? Blah, 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 blah. They did a good job not picking up any stupid yellow cards at the end of the game. I know Mbaizo picked up a yellow card in the 6th minute because he slammed the ball down. Out of frustration, thought the Union should have had a throw-in, but it was given to Portland, and slammed the ball down because of frustration. And yeah, I get it. Just got to have cooler heads. But look, only 1 yellow card where we're used to seeing the Union pick up 2, 3, sometimes 4 yellow cards a game. We will take 1 yellow card. And hey, look, hats off to Mbaizo too. Dude does play aggressive, and they get a yellow card that early on to not get yourself booked for a second yellow card to get a red card. Yeah, hats off to Mbaizo. It was great to see Paxton Aronson make his debut. It was awesome hearing the "We Want Paxton" chants. We want Paxton, and look, we got Paxton. Maybe not as as much of him as we wanted, but look, we finally seen the younger Aronson brother make his debut for the Philadelphia Union. Look, Jim Curtin said, yes, sooner rather than later, Paxton's going to be making his debut, and sure enough, he did, and didn't do much, right? Because he was only on the field for like 2-3 minutes. But it's just great to see the Philadelphia Union just continuing to give these young homegrown players their debuts to continue to produce young, talented players coming through the academy. And for those guys that are still down in the academy, and to see a player like Paxton Aronson, who's 16, 17 years old, make his debut so early on, it's got to give these guys all the confidence in the world that, look, that can be me one day playing for the Philadelphia Union, making my debut in front of a stadium full of fans. And I know, look, the stadium was definitely not 75% full. The weather wasn't the greatest, but nonetheless, I mean, it was super loud in there. And yeah, if Paxton definitely knew that the Philadelphia Union fans wanted him one, and we got to see him come on. And the last thing I want to say about this game is, look, we all know 3 massive points for the Union. That's 5 clean sheets in 8 league games, 8 in 12 games played. Unbelievable to see Andre Blake and that defense playing so well this season, especially that partnership with Jacob Glesnes and Jack Elliott, where it was mostly Elliott and McKenzie last season. Jacob Glesnes, Jack Elliott, seems like these guys haven't missed a beat. And when these guys do get beat for pace, which isn't often, Andre Blake is right there to bail the defense out. That's a 3-game winning streak in all competitions. They are undefeated in 6 games. I believe that's 3 straight. Yeah, that is 3 straight clean sheets for the Union. Przybylko, 8 goals in 12 games. That means that now he's 3rd all-time with 26 goals. He broke the tie with Jack McInerney for most goals scored for the Union all-time. Look, could we see Kacper Przybylko beat Sebastian Latou's record of goals scored in his time as a Union player? I mean, scored 24-plus goals the remaining way. Yeah, it's asking a lot for a striker. I don't know if Kacper has that in him, but yeah, look, to have 8 goals in 12 games, he's 4 goals off of a goal a game. I definitely think Kacper is going to score a lot more goals, but to ask him to go on and score 30-plus goals, and actually, that would have to be 30-plus goals in the season. Yeah, that's asking a lot for a striker to score, and could it happen? Maybe, but I don't think it will happen. But yeah, just like I said earlier, what a bad time for the Union to stop playing going into the international break, because those guys have been in great form, and they deserve a rest, like I said. And hopefully by the time that the Union come back from that break, hopefully that the Union can continue to play as well as they did going into that international break. But let's go ahead and talk about 2 points I want to bring up real quick. And yeah, this might be something Union fans don't want to hear, but I was thinking about it during the game. Is that the last time that we've seen Kai Wagner in a Union jersey? Look, he has 3 assists in 8 games. Great service from set pieces, the corner kicks, the free kicks, like I talked about. If you guys remember back in November it was, when Kai Wagner did that interview with a German website, they asked him about his ambitions, and he said, yeah, I would love to be back in Europe during the winter transfer window. It didn't happen, or at the latest during summer. And look, we're approaching the European summer transfer window. Like I was talking about earlier, how much money do teams in Europe have to spend on money? I don't think we'll see anybody go for crazy money this summer, but could we potentially see Kai Wagner go for $5-6 million? Yeah, I think he's worth that price. He's a left back, which so many teams can't find a good left back. And Kai Wagner, ever since he's gotten into MLS in 2019, has been playing out of his mind. He's been the best left back in the league, in my opinion. He's talked about playing for the Germany national team. And look, I've also talked about that in an earlier podcast where I said there's not many good left backs for Germany. And so who's really stopping Kai Wagner from playing for the German national team? Now, I don't think that Kai would get a call-up for the German national team playing in MLS, which, again, we could have a whole discussion why it's stupid for teams not to call up players in the national team because they play in MLS. We're not going to get into that. We could. But I think if Kai does make the move in the summertime, I think Kai Wagner, if he plays well in Europe, if he does indeed get sold, whether or not it's this summer or not, I think Kai Wagner will be playing again in Europe. And if he does play as well as he's played for the Union in Europe, I don't see why Kai couldn't be playing for the national team. And the one thing that I've been thinking about is, like, look, I know Kai signed a contract during the offseason, but I firmly believe that was to get the Union more money because he just signed a longer-term contract. But the one team that I continue to think about, where could Kai Wagner play? I know he was linked with a move to West Ham. He was linked with a move to Fulham. Well, Fulham got relegated. I don't think West Ham need a left back. I think they were fine with Cresswell. But there is a team that is getting promoted to the Premier League, and they will probably get sent back down because it happens every time. They get promoted, they get relegated, they get promoted, they get relegated. And that is Norwich City. I could see them being a real possible destination for Kai Wagner. Daniel Farker, who's the manager for Norwich City, he plays an attacking style of football. He usually plays a 4-2-3-1 with Norwich. And the one thing about Daniel is he loves using his fullbacks. He loves having his fullbacks in attack. We saw in 2020, Norwich sold highly rated left back Jamil Lewis to Newcastle, who was also linked with a move to Liverpool, but Liverpool weren't going to fork out a ton of money for a backup left back. Next up is Max Aarons, the right back. He's been linked with a move to Everton with Bayern Munich. Could he be the next to leave? Maybe, but Norwich also did just get promoted, like I said, so would they want to lose one of their best players when they just came back up to the Premier League? Probably not. Now, Norwich, they did exercise their obligation to sign Demetrius Giannoulis from Greek side PAOK. That was for 7.5 million British pounds, I believe it was. I'll have to go back and look, but I believe that's how much they were obligated to pay for him if they got promoted back to the Premier League. And I believe they have another left back on loan from Villarreal. And look, they're going to need a backup left back, and I don't see why Kai Wagner couldn't go to Norwich and test Demetrius for the starting left back role. Now, look, 7.5 million is a decent amount of money for a team like Norwich to pay, and like I said, I think Kai Wagner is worth $5 to $6 million. That's again not a ton of money for most teams in Europe, but it is a decent amount of money for a team like Norwich City. But because Daniel's German, he plays an attractive style of football, soccer, uses his left backs in attack. We saw how well Jamil Lewis was for Norwich before he got sold to Newcastle. I could really see Kai Wagner getting sold to Norwich City. I know he's talked about wanting to play in League One, in the Bundesliga, going back there, playing in the Premier League. Yeah, Norwich might not be the most attractive club, but let's face it, Kai Wagner is not going to go and play for Dortmund. He's not going to go and get sold straight to Bayern Munich, to Barcelona. He's going to have to go to a smaller club, a mid-table club in Europe, and if he does well there, then the bigger clubs will come and call for his signature. But I don't know. Just because Kai Wagner has been playing so well since 2019, he continues to play well here in 2021. I know the Union aren't obligated to sell him. He signed a contract, and he's under contract, but Ernst Tenner isn't one, I believe, that wouldn't go against the player's best interest. If Kai Wagner's heart is really set on a move to Europe, I believe it is really set on a move back to Europe. I think Ernst Tenner would do what's best for Kai and look out for him. But Ernst Tenner is also not going to let the Union get ripped off for a move either. So if somebody comes in and low balls like we saw Celtic did with Mark McKenzie, Ernst Tenner's not going to jump at the first offer. And maybe they already have had offers for Kai Wagner. And maybe Ernst Tenner said, look, this isn't good enough. He's worth more. And maybe that's exactly what's happening now. So if somebody comes in with $5 to $6 million for Kai Wagner here in the summer, yeah, I can definitely see Kai Wagner moving. So then, look, there was a debate on Twitter, thanks to Rich Laurie, tweeting about Leon Flach, saying he's too good to bench once Gazdag's back. And I suggested a change of formation, and I think, look, there's a whole bunch you can do. You go with a 4-5-1, you can go with a 4-2-2-2, which I've seen people suggest, and I believe the Union ran that formation once in preseason this year. They could go with a 4-2-3-1, a 4-3-2-1, or you could keep the 4-4-2 and play Gazdag as a striker. There's a lot that you can do to still keep Leon in here once Daniel Gazdag is back from the Euros. But then it goes back to my point. If Kai Wagner is sold in the summertime, what about Leon Flach playing as a left back? He's super versatile. We've seen him play at the 6. We've seen him play at the 8. We've seen him put in some really good crosses from the left wing. He has the pace on him to play left back. He can defend and pass well. Again, exactly what Kai Wagner is good at. He's left-footed. How much would we really be losing from Kai Wagner to Leon Flach? Now, look, I know people want to see Leon Flach in a more advanced position. They want to see him more as an 8. Personally, I think when Leon had to play as a 6, I think he was a lot better as the number 6 than he was at the number 8. Did such a great job shutting down Carlos Gil and shutting down Lucas Rayan. But when we played Columbus, he was playing as an 8. But he specifically played the number 6 position when we played New England, and he shut down Carlos Gil. Did a phenomenal job against Carlos Gil. But look, I think Leon Flach could play as a left back. I really do. I think we've seen him drift back when Kai Wagner's got caught up the field attacking too much. We've seen him fill in there to cover for Kai Wagner. He's a really good defender, and he's got a great cross on him. So, look, I think that's one thing that Philadelphia Union fans should think about. Look, if we lose Kai Wagner, then everybody wants to see Leon Flach continue to play for the team, and so do I. And if Kai is sold, you want Leon to still play, why not throw him out there as a left back? Now, I know there probably are people out there that want to see Matt Real get a chance at the left back spot, but Leon Flach's been playing so well, and Rich is right. How do you bench Leon Flach when Daniel Gazdag comes here? And look, if Kai Wagner is still here, doesn't get sold, Jim Curtin's going to have a tough decision. How does he fit Leon Flach in this lineup? And I know people said, okay, well, if you go to one of these formations, then how do you get Ali Bedoya still in the lineup? You know, I've seen people say, oh, play him as a right back. Nah. Mbaizo's playing so well as a right back. But I'm also not against giving Ali Bedoya a rest. Let's face it. He's not getting any younger. He's 34, 35 years old, I believe it is. And Jim continues to play him from minute 1 to minute 90, and I know that's due in part because Ali Bedoya believes in himself, saying, look, I can play this amount of minutes, and I really do believe Ali can play that amount of minutes, but as the season goes on, he's going to need a break. So Leon Flach, potential left back for the Union if Kai Wagner gets sold, maybe. But the last thing I want to bring up real quick is this was going on, like I said earlier, we'll talk about the Philadelphia Union subreddit. Somebody made a post and said the golden era of Union soccer, and I thought it was interesting seeing user Drew Uke. I hope I'm saying that right. Drew Uke. He came out and broke down the 4 different eras of Union soccer. So from 2007 to 2011, he called it the creation. From 2012 to 2015, although he said the creation, you can mix these two up. He called it the sack shit show from 2012 to 2015. Yeah, what a terrible year it was with Peter Novak at the helm as the manager, and Sack. Don't want to talk about him here. Thank goodness we got Ernst Tanner right, and look, even Ernie Stewart was a step up from him as well. What a terrible time for Philadelphia Union. It is also a good thing that I wasn't around back when Peter Novak was in charge, was the manager when he had sacked as the sporting director. It was a terrible time from what I hear from Philadelphia Union fans. And then went on the rebuild from 2016 to 2018 with Ernie Stewart, and then the golden era from 2019 to the present. Now I do believe that we are in a golden era for the Philadelphia Union. But somebody also did say that the club is too young to really break down the different eras because this is only our 12th season. Yeah, it is hard. Now, maybe, look, in 20-plus years, we can talk about those different eras and everything. But the one thing I am sure of is that the Union right now, if you want to say from 2019 to the present, this definitely is the golden era of soccer for the Union. They've got a great academy going for them. Ernst Tanner is phenomenal. Jim Curtin's won MLS Coach of the Year last season, continues to get the most out of players. And then the one thing that I do worry about is whenever this golden era of Union soccer ends, I think it probably ends when Ernst Tanner leaves, unless they can go out and find another Ernst Tanner. But it's going to be pretty hard to replace Ernst Tanner with another Ernst Tanner. And as Union fans, we got to enjoy the soccer that we're seeing. Just every single matchup we see, every season, every month, whatever that passes with Ernst Tanner still at the helm as sporting director, we've got to cherish that because, look, we've seen what the Union looked like before Ernst, and to think about what this team's going to look like whenever Ernst decides to leave, yeah, it's pretty scary. Look, losing Jim Curtin eventually is going to suck because he's talked about his aspirations to go and manage in Europe one day. But I think us losing Ernst Tanner would be a bigger blow than us losing Jim Curtin, just my opinion. Yeah, I don't want to think about Ernst Tanner leaving. And look, he said, I had all these offers in Europe before I came to the Union, but I've already done soccer in Europe. Why do I want to continue to do the same thing in Europe that I've been doing for the last 10 plus years? And he's like, yeah, MLS is a whole new beast, a whole new ball game. And could he have potentially went to the New York Red Bulls organization and been their sporting director? Yeah, probably. But look, let's face it. He went to the Philadelphia Union where they don't spend a ton of money. So that in itself's a whole new challenge. And yeah, from 2019 to now, Ernst Tanner has done a phenomenal job with the Philadelphia Union. And I don't want to think about Ernst Tanner leaving because it's going to be a pretty sad day for the Union once Ernst Tanner decides that he wants to go on to his next project. But that's it for this episode. Like I said, we know the Union have a 2-week break before Atlanta. So we'll definitely more than likely have a guest on that covers Atlanta. You guys can go ahead and think about who are the commentators for Atlanta United. One of them is Maurice Adu. How cool would that be to get Maurice Adu on the podcast? Maybe it happens. Maybe it doesn't. But yeah, there's a lot of possibilities for who I could get onto the podcast, or at least who I hope will come onto the podcast. I will be having the Sons of Ben travel coordinator, Heather Riepert, on to talk about just the upcoming Sons of Ben away travel days with the new partnership with this Philly travel group. Both of those guys will be coming onto the podcast either sometime this week or next week, just talking about the upcoming away trips that the Sons of Ben have planned. And then after that, the Pride of Harford County potentially coming on the podcast. Working on that. If you guys don't know who I'm talking about, go ahead and listen to older episodes. Look up the Union's roster, who was born in Harford County, Maryland. So trying to get that guy to come onto the podcast because I feel like that would be a great conversation. So yeah, a lot of great things to look forward to for the podcast here in the next couple of weeks. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod. Check out the website, thefreekickpodcast.com. Wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick, Todd Lewis. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is The Free Kick Podcast.